Nearly 24 Democratic mayors across the country that called to defund the police. When it came to their own private security details, however, that was a different story. Adam Andrzejewski of Forbes analyzing 25 major cities and finding that in at least 20 of them, including these mayors and other city leaders that slashed police budgets, they actually spent millions of dollars on their own personal protection, with, of course, taxpayers picking up the tab. Jesse Waters, in Seattle, where I live, Mayor Durkan actually got 2 protective details, a uniformed division and her executive protection detail, and those cops got priority for that detail, meaning that in addition to defunding the precincts, when cops would call in sick or had to leave, then those would be understaffed because her details, both of them, always remained staffed.
Yeah, this is why people hate politicians, because they never follow the rules that they direct at you, whether it's Pelosi who strolls into the salon without a mask, or Newsom who dines with 20 people at French Laundry, or, any of these people that defund the police and then get a squad flanking their shoulders with, armed guys. It's just terrible. And look what the Democrats did in the summer. They bailed out all the rioters. And then they want to throw the book at the January 6th protesters. Remember, they savagely attacked all police departments last year as systemically racist, and then just heap praise on the Capitol Hill police. They didn't really care when other people's businesses were being broken into, but when their business was broken into, that was the difference. They're snobs. And that's what it's about. They believe their life is worth more than your life. And the only reason they have this job is they're just the only ones corrupt and narcissistic enough to run for public office. No one else wanted that do it.
That's exactly right. And Miranda, also that their property is worth more and is valued more. So in the city of Portland, for example, when only half of the referred crimes, actually less than half of the referred crimes were prosecuted, and the punishments only consisted of, quote, encouraging people to vote or community service, there when the mayor had his house disrupted, he said it was patently unfair, unjust, and that should be off limits, etc.
It's incredible. The problem for the people who rule over us, when they start thinking that they are better than us, that they are elites, that they should have their own private security, that they shouldn't have to live in the ways and under the conditions that they have imposed on the rest of us, then that's when you get the public revolting. And that's when you get an enormous backlash against the Democrats, against their cities, against their representatives, which will happen next November. It's, coming down the pike. It is so obvious. You just see the Biden administration are starting to panic. They're looking at the polls. People care about law and order. You look at Eric Adams, who won the Democrat primaries in New York, and now Joe Biden's invited him to come to the White House to try and maybe teach the rest of them about how to win an election by not being a hypocrite and by cracking down on the things that the public cares about. And I think it's too late for them. They're so out of touch.
And Harris, there's also a luxury associated with it. So, for example, again, going back to Mayor Jenny Durkan of Seattle, her $7.5 million house, she claims needs to be kept private because she was getting death threats as a U.S. attorney in the Obama administration. Meanwhile, people don't have choices about their addresses being maintained publicly, being burned down in chop zones or looted downtown, those that live above their own stores and their livelihoods. No one else has a choice, and no one else has that luxury of privacy that these people get.
No, it's so true. And, when you talk about the luxury of being protected because of how you live or what you say, try being on social media and asking about the Wuhan laboratory leak of the COVID-19 deadly virus. I mean, people will come for those who do that from personal experience. Some of us know that. And you get doxxed sometimes. But our taxpayers aren't going to pay for the free speech to provide those people who speak out protection. She's leading. I thought Miranda's words were spot on, though, and I know you choose them very carefully. The people who rule over us, let's remind them that they don't. That this is not a situation where they ascended to a throne. They can be taken down through an election, and we need to remind them of that. However you feel when you go to the polls, the power is in your hands.
That's exactly right. And Miranda, you also brought up the NYC mayoral race. Remember one of the candidates, Maya Wiley, who paid for personal private security in her home, but she attributed it to her partner's trauma and that everyone deals with it differently. But that goes back again to luxury, which is that they can afford it. But normal, ordinary Americans can't.